first thing in the morning again in the tiny apartment, or it's about 7 o'clock, so it's getting a little bit later. Uh, I'm not, I'm not showered, I'm not dressed, I haven't brushed my teeth or washed my face even. I've had 1 cup of coffee. And although it's kind of a weird way to start the day, I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying doing these videos first thing because it sets my head in the right direction. I'm thinking about art. I'm thinking about painting. I'm thinking about how I'm going to approach a painting. It really sets my mind in a whole new direction than when I just put my head down and get to work. When I do that, I start to feel somewhat isolated and insular, where this, or insulated. By doing this, I'm more exposed. I am obviously physically raw, um, but mentally, emotionally, and intellectually raw as well. Where it's obvious to the whole world. There's John. There's one of my neighbors, John. It's obvious to the whole world that I have no idea what I'm talking about, or I kind of do, but I get a little confused. And a few years ago, I would have been way too embarrassed to expose myself that way, even though you are exposed that way all day long. I would have been way too embarrassed to put it in video and then have it out there for God knows how long, forever, or until the videos get deleted, whatever. Now I kind of like it. It's really kind of funny to watch myself veer off and then come back and like flap around like an injured butterfly for a little while, get confused and lost. It's kind of entertaining to see myself in such a vulnerable position. In the last couple of videos, I've talked about how I really don't know how to talk about art, and I don't know how to talk about my art, and I'm trying to find my words. But then I was watching another, or I was listening to other interviews with people who have people talk about their art for them. One fellow, and I can't remember who it was, who it is rather, had a friend pose as him for several years. So when he was asked to do his talks at museums and galleries or go to openings, he sent a stunt double in, basically, this fellow who posed as him and could talk art, who could hold the discussion about his work in a more high-minded manner than the artist actually could. So I'm glad to see that there are artists way above my pay grade who are on the same level in discussing their work. They don't use the fancy language because they don't know it. They can't. And they're not comfortable. I am definitely uncomfortable at openings. And it's not that I don't have the confidence. Obviously, I have some confidence because I'm willing to make myself vulnerable in these videos. Um, by exposing myself to thousands of people. But my idiocies are thousands of people. But it's the one-on-one. I shake like a poodle, a little chihuahua in the cold. Um, all of it goes out the window. All of a sudden, I can't recognize people. I recognize the outline of people, but I don't recognize their faces. I can't remember people's names. Um, Anything I have to say is gone. Like any form of anything beyond hi is totally gone. And all I can think of is this was a major mistake. This stuff has to be fixed. Where are my paints? I see everything that's wrong in the room, and including with me. Um, but anyway, what was I actually going to talk about? Okay, so we covered it. I do have confidence. I don't have confidence. I love intellectualizing and philosophizing, but I have no idea what I'm saying. There we are. All in one shot in the morning before my head is pulled together. Let me show you what I've been working on. This is a new canvas I'm going into. I'm doing a portrait of Christopher Hitchens, the philosopher, writer, intellectual. I really loved him. I'm sad. I'm so sad he's gone. Um, where was I going? I can't remember. I was going to paint somebody. Uh, Gray. Oh my God, one of my other favorite writers, Gray. Spalding Gray. Sorry, there we are. Woo! So I'm painting Christopher Hitchens, and it's a painting I've been wanting to do for 2 or 3 years, but I didn't have the correct canvas. I really wanted to do him on a massive scale, 6 or 9 feet high. I wanted to do him big. I don't have the room, I don't have the money, I don't have the canvas. So I took 2 canvases that I had aside for other projects, one in New York, and I decided to use him for Christopher Hitchens and get him off my to-do list. He's on two, two he's on two 24 by 24 inch canvases. One of them, and they're totally different. They're the same size, but they're totally different. One is pre-made for. One of them came from Dick Blick, pre-stretched, pre-gessoed, blah blah blah. The other one was stretched by my friend Andy, I believe. I think Andy stretched that one. Maybe I did actually, but um, it's a very rough canvas. It was a heavy gesso, heavy canvas, totally different. So they're two totally different textures. One is semi-rough, which I love. I love Dick Blick studio canvases. They're raw and rough-ish. The one below is super heavy and totally different quality. So although it's the same image, or it's a portrait of one person stretched across 2 canvases, they convey slightly different feels because of the texture. And it's not that you see it so much as it like registers somewhere in your head, somewhere in your cerebral cortex. You say, something isn't quite right here. Something isn't quite right. And they work. This is another one I'm starting. I'm going to start today, as a matter of fact. I love Spalding Gray. And I was devastated when his head injury and depression took over. I saw him on stage at the Cape Playhouse probably 20 years ago. And after I saw him perform, the monologuist Spalding Gray, monologuist and writer Spalding Gray, after I saw him, he ended up having a head-on car accident in Ireland, and just he had a head injury. I believe his femur was broken. He was completely messed up physically, and it set him into a depression. And he had already been struggling with depression. Christopher Hitchens had died of cancer, and this fellow, his depression ate him alive. He was not physically the man he was, and although life from the outside would appear to be very happy, it wasn't. He just could not get himself out of bed. He could not get himself to function in the world any longer. And so he got on the Staten Island ferry. I think it was in March. I think it was at this time. Or he was found in March. I have to find his obituary. But he dropped himself. He dropped himself off the Staten Island ferry, and they couldn't find his body for about a month. And everybody knew what he had done. He couldn't take his sadness and depression any longer, and his ability to not function as himself. He was a high intellectual, a great writer, and for the most part it was gone. He had to struggle physically, which took him down mentally and emotionally further into a pit that he was already in. So I'm going to do Spalding Gray, and doesn't that sound like fun? Because I love him and I miss him. I miss his hands and his movements. He had these, when he was on stage performing a monologue, Monster in the Box, Swimming to Cambodia, like all these great performances, he used his hands to help accentuate certain points. And they were things, he used himself physically that people had never seen before, in a way people had never seen before. And he changed. What I love about him is he's absolutely spurred whole movements in storytelling. So that now we have The Moth, and we have, we have interview shows like Studio 360. But like, I think he influenced TED Talks, where people stand on stage and they tell their own stories the way Spalding did. And they're intellectual and blah blah. They're like Christopher Hitchens and Spalding got together, had a baby, and made TED Talks. He really, I feel he just changed American theater, or actually changed theater around the world very slowly. But you weren't just a musician or a comic. You could be something in between. You weren't just reading from a book, an author reading from a book. You were now a hybrid of all those things. He wasn't a musician, but musician, storyteller, author, reading from their book. You were a hybrid. And now we see so many movements that are that he birthed. Okay, let's keep in mind I'm only on 1 cup of coffee. And so this is my other project. This is called Summer in the City. It's a multi-layered painting. Started off with black and white gesso, as always, or black gesso just on this one, aerosol, acrylic paint, and now we're down to the oils. And as it happens, we've had a lot of interest in this. People have been calling Blue Egg, my gallery in Miami, about it. But as it happens, we're now in a we have a sale pending, so it's chow to this one, which is very nice, but it's not finished, and so I have to get my button gear. This particular painting is done on Masonite. I like painting on Masonite. I love painting on canvas. Oh my God, I love painting on canvas. But I also like painting on Masonite for certain subjects, because as with the Christopher Hitchens piece, the wood underneath conveys a totally different idea, a totally different feel, and there's like a subtext there without saying, hello, I'm very raw. It's a completely different subtext, and it's different than the raw, rough canvas that Hitchens's lower part of the portrait is on. It's the overall raw feel, and it's not because of the subject matter, the children in it, that I wanted raw. It was a city feel that I wanted raw. I wanted conveyed in a raw manner. So Masonite, canvas, Hitchens, Spalding Gray. My heart breaks still because he's gone. And Summer in the City. And I'm really glad we're like in a pre-sale mode right now. I've got a couple paintings that people have, a number of paintings that people have asked about that aren't finished and aren't even started. Oh my God. It's my day. It hasn't even started and it's already done. All right, time to get to work. Ciao.